So, who's in the mood to judge other people? There's a place you can go to online, of course, where you can judge the conflicts that other people are going through and determine if you think that they're the one being the jerk in that conflict or if it's the other person, or if maybe no one's being a jerk and it's just a disagreement. So it's called the Am I the A-hole? That's what I'm calling it, the A-hole subreddit. Well, one day I wondered, I wonder if there's any homeschool related posts on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. There are. So I thought it would be fun for us to go ahead and read one of these posts and kind of talk about it. And so I'm going to share my opinions. These are just opinions. I don't know these people, but I'm going to share my opinions as I read the post about what might be going on in this situation, recognizing that the person who's writing the post probably isn't given all the information. You know, they're going to be given information that makes them look good, probably. So, kind of keeping that in mind, I'm going to read through here, I'm going to give my opinions, and then you can share with me what your opinion is. Do you agree with me or do you not agree with me? So I found this post called Am I the A-hole for telling my sister she should not homeschool her children? Looks like fun. How many people have had that conflict where a family member does not think that you should homeschool and they have all sorts of good reasons for you not homeschooling? So this could be really interesting. So here goes. I'm a 27-year-old female. My sister is a 30-year-old female. She has 4 kids. Looks like a 10-year-old girl, a twin 8-year-old boy and girl, and a 6-year-old girl. For additional background, my sister's a stay-at-home mom and her husband works a 9 to 5 throughout the week. I have a fairly good relationship with my sister and her children, and I've provided regular childcare for her since her oldest daughter was newborn. So right off the bat, I think this is interesting that the title of this post is Am I the A-hole for telling my sister she should not homeschool her children? But in the first paragraph, she's telling us that I've provided regular childcare for my sister since her oldest was newborn. So, like, I really know my nieces and nephew. I've taken care of them a lot. And I think that's interesting that she added that. I find this interesting because I'm already wondering if the woman posting this is thinking that since she has provided regular childcare, I don't know what that means, for her sister, that she gets a say in how her sister and her brother-in-law parent their kids, which sounds crazy when you say that, but some people feel that way. They think that the more involved they are with your family, the better they know you, that they get a say into your life decisions, your parenting decisions. And, you know, I have no doubt that she loves her nieces and nephew, but you know, just because you babysit for a relative sometimes doesn't mean you get to help make parenting decisions. So I'm already wondering. All right, continuing. My sister has recently decided she doesn't like the local public schools. She's discussed alternatives with me before, and I've recommended her the private school that my friend's children attend. So her sister and her must be pretty close because she's discussing like her life choices with her sister, but she doesn't say that her sister has asked her for her opinion. She's just saying that her sister has mentioned it and she's discussed it, that they're considering other options. It's highly ranked, so the private school is highly ranked and everyone I know likes it. For the most part, she hasn't been too enthusiastic about the idea. She kept bringing up homeschool, and I would just try and redirect her, never being too firm against it. So, she has a strong opinion already, and her sister is discussing her life with her, as you do with family. But this woman posting this feels like her say is pretty important. Like what she has to say is pretty important about her sister's life. Uh, hmm. And I think that's interesting that, I mean, you know, sometimes when you look at conflict, you have to look to see what someone not saying. So she's not saying that her sister asked her for her opinion because maybe her sister didn't ask her for her opinion. She just talked about homeschooling. She's not saying that she felt uncomfortable with the idea and so didn't feel comfortable talking about it with her sister. She's saying, I would redirect her, never being too firm against it. So when you use that language, that I would redirect her, that's what you do with children. when kids are whining or really focused on something they can't have, what do? You redirect. And so I kind of feel like she's treating her older sister like she's a child, that she has to redirect her to a better decision, which is an interesting dynamic already. The other day, she came over and told me she'd made up her mind. She decided that she would not send her children back to school at the end of the year and would instead be homeschooling. I told her truthfully that I didn't think that would be successful. She laid out her plan to me, which was not really a plan, just her saying she would teach the children from 8 to 3 and then they would be able to be together as a family for the rest of the day. Okay, so here we see that her sister is not asking her for her opinion. She's just telling her, this is what we decided to do as a family. And the sister doesn't like it, so she volunteers her opinion. Even though it doesn't sound like she's not saying that her sister asked her for her opinion, and she probably wasn't, because if she's saying, here's what we've decided to do. I saw this meme recently that said something like, an unsolicited opinion is a criticism. And I thought that was such a good way of putting that. That if someone hasn't asked you for your opinion, but then you give it anyway, and it's opinion that is negative towards the other person, then what you're doing is you're criticizing that person. And it's going to be taken as such. So she is giving her opinion to her sister, an unsolicited opinion. She's criticizing her sister's decision for her family. And um, so that's already not good. However, the fact that the sister says that she's planning to do schoolwork from 8 to 3 makes me wonder if her sister's done any research at all about homeschooling. Because anyone who has done a little bit of research and then just finds out how long does it take to homeschool, uh, they'll see all sorts of tables and charts listing, if your kid's about this age, they should do about this much of schoolwork a day. And it's not that many hours of it. It's only, let's look one up. Let's go ahead and take a look. See how long to homeschool each day. Okay, so right away I see one place that says we recommend that, this is from sheknows.com. We recommend that true homeschoolers spend about an hour to 2 hours a day for those elementary years, 2 to 3 hours a day for middle school, and 3 to 4 hours a day for high school. If I look somewhere else, scarymommy.com there's a table that says that like first and second grade should take a minimum of 45 minutes a day and a maximum of 90 minutes a day. And like a fifth grader, 60 minutes a day minimum, 120 minutes a day maximum. So we're talking between an hour and 2 hours a day. Now, she does spell out that the recommended length of sustained attention is like 5 to 10 minutes for a first grader or second grader, and 10 to 15 minutes for third through fifth grade. Some tables where you look, they don't say that. So I don't actually like those recommendations because they're misleading. Because it might say, oh, it only takes an hour and a half a day, but that hour and a half, you're not powering through and getting done in an hour and a half with a first grader. You're doing a little bit at a time. So that hour and a half, if they stay on task, they might do 10, 15 minutes. So let's say you do reading for like 10 minutes, and then you take a little break, take a 5-minute break. And then you go on to the next thing, work on math for 15 minutes, and you take a little break. So it can spread out during the day, especially when you have other kids involved and you have other kids you're working with. And if they are not understanding something, or if there's a meltdown or any kind of special needs. So I typically don't like those tables because they're misleading, because it might not be accurate. It really depends on your child. And um, it's not that amount of time all at once. That 2 hours can be spread out through a whole day, and that's with you trying to get it done. Especially if you have several kids, because then you're going to be jumping from child to child, because even your older kids are going to need your help at some point, and you're going to have to do some teaching. You're going to have to check their work and work through problems. And then there's all the home stuff that you have to do as a mom, cooking, cleaning, picking up, doing laundry, all the things. And so if this mom, if the person who posted this on Reddit if her sister had done some research, she would have seen that, and I would have expected to see some reference to that. But she's not. She's saying that, well, we homeschool them from 8 to 3, probably because that's what schools do, right? Her kids are probably in school around 8 o'clock and then are done around 3 o'clock. She doesn't understand that while kids are in school, they're not on task all that time. There's a lot of busy work that kids are given as teachers. Uh, Focus on different kids or different groups of kids, and so kids are kind of left to do a lot of busy work a lot of the time. She doesn't understand that they're going like to an art class or to a PE class or to different things, and so that's not doing schoolwork all that time. So that makes me think that her sister has not actually done research, if this is accurate. And if she has not done research and has made a really big decision like this huge change in lifestyle and this tremendous responsibility that she's saying she wants to take on, and she's made that decision, hasn't done the research, that's not a good idea. I mean, it's never good to make a huge decision about your life and about your kids' lives and not do research first. Your decisions should be informed by your research, especially when it comes to a huge life choice. And so that's making me wonder about the sister. Okay, let's continue with this. I reminded her that she barely got through high school. Okay, so I can see why the sister is bothered that her sister wants to homeschool. She's like, you weren't a successful student, so why would you think that you could successfully teach your kids? I think that's a common thought. Here's the thing, depending on where you live, you don't necessarily need a college degree to homeschool your kids, because this is showing that the person who posted this doesn't know anything about homeschooling. So her sister's making an uninformed decision and she's giving uninformed advice, saying you couldn't even get through high school. Because if you know anything about homeschooling, you know that you look at your local laws to see if you are qualified to homeschool, if there's qualifications required. But then after that, if there's no qualifications, or if there are qualifications for homeschooling and you meet those qualifications and you make that choice, homeschooling doesn't involve you just having to come up with it. Like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can buy homeschool specific curriculum, not curriculum for schools because they have a lot of busy work in them and they're set up in a different way. But if you buy a homeschool specific curriculum, quality curriculum, they really help you teach your kids. They may script it out for you, or they can give advice for how to structure your lessons, how to structure your week even in that subject or in that curriculum. So there's a lot of help given. So it's not that you don't have to be super smart to homeschool. You just have to be willing to do your research and do the work, which can be underestimated. But so clearly the person posting this doesn't know anything about it, but she's saying her sister barely got through high school. Maybe she's saying that her sister doesn't value education, that she didn't care about getting herself through high school, and so she doesn't value education, and so she's not going to teach her kids well because it's not important to her. Maybe that's what she's saying. I don't know. See, she has no college degree. Cover that. You don't need a college degree necessarily to homeschool your kids. Her husband does, but he works all day and won't be the main person teaching them. Well, I mean, that's a good point because I have seen that situation where someone chooses to homeschool and then they kind of leave stuff for their husband to cover. And if you're going to do that, then what's the point? Like, send your kids off to school and then do homework at night. Because, if your husband comes home from work tired, I mean, just like you, if you're busy doing something else all day, do you then want to switch gears that hard to like work on math with your kids? It can be a lot. Every once in a while is one thing, but if it's like a daily thing, that can be a real hardship, kind of a mental hardship on the person who's gone during the day and then having to come and go into teacher mode. That can be difficult. All right, let's see. My oldest niece is incredibly social and loves the structure of her school. She wants to be a teacher when she grows up. Okay, just because you homeschool doesn't mean that you become a hermit. Homeschooling does not mean saying no to social activities. Some kids are like over socialized. There's lots of things you can do as a homeschool. There's lots of groups you could join and lots of classes you can take. As a matter of fact, that can take the place of the parent doing the instruction. Um, she's worried that her sister doesn't have a college degree and barely got through high school, but you can hire tutors, you can do online classes, like my kids are doing Power Homeschool this year for a couple of their classes. You can uh, go to a class, like there are homeschool classes depending on where you live, where there's a teacher teaching that class. You can do kind of a parent partnership school where your kids go to school 1 or 2 days a week, and then the rest of the time they're at home and you're helping them with their schoolwork the rest of the week. But they've had the benefit of a teacher who that's what they're doing, that's what they do, once or twice a week. So there's lots of different choices, and some of those choices involve some social activities. All right, continuing. I told her that her family can afford the private school and she needs to make a decision that's best for her children. Oh, this gets on my nerves. Two problems here. First problem, I told her that her family can afford the private school. Like, really? Do you not think that she knows what her family can afford, that her and her husband haven't discussed this and they know what they can afford? Like, why do you think? So I'm seeing that this younger sister, I mean, this made my decision for me. This younger sister is extremely condescending to her older sister, and to the point where she thinks she has to tell her how her finances work. Like, this is how your finances work because you're too dumb to know this. And then the second thing that's bothering me is that she needs to make a decision that's best for her children because, like I said earlier, this lady thinks that she's the one that knows best for someone else's kids. I've had this where I've had a stranger even make a comment like this to me. Um, and it's so condescending and insulting and I think narcissistic of another person to think that they know what's best for someone else's kid. Like you're not in that family. You don't know. Uh, it's not like they've chosen to like live off the grid in some jungle somewhere. It's not like they've chosen to do something illegal. It's just a different. It's just they've made a decision about something that this person doesn't know a whole lot about and probably believes a lot of stereotypes about. And so she's telling her sister, "You're not doing the best for your kids." I mean, that's the fastest way to piss off a parent to say something like that. I mean, wow. Whew. Okay, so what does the sister say? She says, okay, she told me I don't have a right to criticize because I don't have children and I'm not professional. Both good points. Don't you just love it when people who don't have kids give you advice? And they give advice as if they know so much. I mean, I think we've all done that. Like pre-kids have given some advice at some point or shared some opinions based again on nothing, on no good information, no life experience. But wow, this is irritating. I mean, like in this situation, maybe she's babysat her sister's kids, and her sister made the poor choice to discuss apparently a lot of their life with her, and so that gave this woman the idea that she thinks she has informed opinions. Like babysitting is not the same as parenting. Babysitting is not the same as parenting. Babysitting does not give you the experience to or the knowledge or the information to be able to give someone else advice about how they should parent. Babysitting is not parenting. It does not qualify you to give parenting advice. It doesn't. But this woman thinks that because she's babysat her nieces and nephews, the way she put it was that she said, I have provided childcare. I feel like she tried to make it fancier than it was. She babysat her nieces and nephew. And then her sister made the unwise choice of sharing a lot of information, apparently, about what's going on in their lives and decisions that they're trying to make and thoughts they're having about how to raise their kids. And that made this woman think, since I have babysat my nieces and nephew and my sister is coming to me telling me all this stuff, then clearly she needs my guidance on how to parent and how to run her life and how to make good decisions for her kids. When her sister was probably just talking to her because she needed someone to talk to and she was there. Ooh, this gets me worked up. So no, babysitting does not qualify you to give parenting advice. And also she's saying she's not professional. So I don't know what she means that she's not professional. She's saying, you're not a professional teacher, you're not a psychiatrist or a therapist or anything like that. I don't know what she's saying here. But Her sister's coming back at her now. She just told her sister, "You are not qualified to teach your children. You're not even qualified to make good decisions for your children." This is what she just told her sister. Her sister comes back and says, "You're not qualified either. You're not qualified to give parenting advice." And so she came back at her. All right, so continuing on, I agreed with her. Well, at least she's being honest here. But I told her that I know her kids. See what I tell you? She says, I know her kids. I've babysat them, so I know what it's like to be their mom. It's ridiculous. I know her kids, and I think this is going to be a misstep. She was really upset. No, really? She was really upset by this and told me she felt hurt that I didn't trust her to educate her children. Um, you know what's interesting to me is, like I said earlier, you have to really be careful about how someone words things, and that she was probably going to word things in a way that made her look better to get people to agree that she's not the a-hole. But when, in all the things that if you read between the lines of what she's saying about her sister doesn't sound stupid. She's trying to present her sister as a bad parent, basically, as naive, and maybe she is naive about educating her kids anyway, that it's going to, it's going to be harder than she thinks it's going to be. But she's trying to present her as someone who's making bad decisions, and someone who's naive, and it's someone who's being selfish. But the way she's telling us about how her sister responds, her sister sounds pretty mature and reasonable, where she's trying to present her sister as immature. I mean, that's bottom line. She's trying to present her sister as immature and naive, even though her sister's, 30 years old, that she's older than her. But she's trying to present herself as, look, I am the mature one in this family. I'm the smart one. I'm the one that knows what's going on. She says that her sister barely got through high school. And the implication there is that I did well in high school. She didn't say it outright, but she kind of left that hanging there for you to come to that conclusion. So she's presenting her sister as immature and naive and not too bright. But it sounds like her sister responded to her in a pretty mature way. And so, okay. All right, I told her I trust her as a mother, not as a teacher, and that made her cry. Admittedly, I was getting a little frustrated, and I definitely was snappish with her. That's probably a little more than snappish. I told her that she should probably go so we could calm down. That was one good decision she made. She made a terrible decision by giving her unsolicited opinion, her unsolicited and uninformed opinion. But at least this was a good decision that we need to just maybe separate so that this doesn't spiral really out of control. She said that she isn't changing her mind, and I said, okay, but I was not going to endorse it. Well, her endorsement's not required. She's not part of that parenting decision. That made her more upset. So I wonder if she was upset that her sister wasn't going to endorse it, or if she was upset that her sister thought that her endorsement was important. She has always been the family baby. So this sister's older, but so here she's basically saying right outright, my sister is immature and naive, and the whole family, so she's saying that her whole family sees her that way. It sounds like triangulation to me. And our parents are on me about being so mean to her. So she's saying she's the family baby, implying that the whole family sees her sister as the baby. But her parents aren't agreeing with her. She has always been the family baby, and her parents are on me about being so mean to her. Okay, so her older sister, she's saying her older sister is the family baby. And that's implying that the whole family agrees with her that her sister is immature and naive. And so she seems to be saying here that the only reason her parents are on her about being mean to her sister is because she's the family baby, not because she was in the wrong to talk to her sister like that. Okay, they're upset that I was judgmental, yes. But she's trying to make you think that they're upset that she disturbed the family baby. No, they're upset because you were rude about something that you don't have a say on and that you don't really know anything about. I want to see if this is something I really should concede on and just accept, or if it's right for me to hold firm. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister not to homeschool? All right, so you probably can guess that my opinion is she is absolutely the a-hole. Because, number one, this is not her decision to make. And number two, She doesn't know anything about homeschooling, so her opinion, even if her sister had asked her for opinion, it is an uninformed opinion. So she doesn't have anything valuable to say on the subject. She just has a bias against homeschooling, is what it sounds like to me. And on top of all that, she just sounds extremely toxic to me. She's trying to make us think that everybody sees her sister negatively. She dropped in all these. She's the kind of toxic that's passive aggressive. She's not saying, hey, my sister wants to homeschool. And I don't know, I worry about it because she didn't do well in school. She doesn't have a college degree. And, I just kind of wonder, are the kids going to see other people? She's not just laying it out there like that because that's the situation. She's described it. Instead, she's putting in all these little um, toxic comments, trying to make us think that her sister's just kind of stupid and naive and immature, and that the whole family thinks that. And the only reason her family disagrees with her is because they're trying to baby her, and no one's listening to her because she's the one that's smart and knows things. That's extremely toxic. That's very toxic behavior. And if she's doing this on a website to strangers, I wonder what she's like in real life. Have you ever had that person in your life who's always trying to make people think badly about you, who makes all these little passive aggressive comments, and they act like they're just joking, or that they don't mean anything, or they don't remember saying something ugly when really they totally meant it. And just basically trying to make you look bad. So that this sister is coming, I'm getting strong toxic vibes from this sister. So I think she's the a-hole. But you know what? The consensus on this subreddit is that she is not the a-hole. I can't even believe it. Like, what's going on? All I can think is there's a lot of people on here who don't know anything about homeschooling, and that this is what they would wish to do if one of their family members came to them and said they wanted to homeschool. That, like, yeah, I would want to tell them all the same things, and then that's feeling them justified about their uninformed opinions. The best thing that this sister could do is to support her sister without crossing boundaries and trying to boss her sister around about how her family should function. Because while that continues, not only will she have a problem with her sister and her parents, she's probably going to have a problem with that brother in law eventually, too. So that's my assessment. How about you? Do you agree or disagree with me? Have you been in this situation where someone's talked ugly to you about your decision to homeschool? And how did that work out? Let us know in the comments, and I will see you there.